100 cases of people who wandered into the wilderness but never came back. Accounts of children, people
was a coyote,
vanishing,
dog, or
seemingly
else.
swallowed up by the many endless forests across America, or even later found in ways that defy logic.
An animal.
Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my central light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man.
She described the way that
like a
the
man. I don't
creature
know what it
moved
was.
would not be
Okay. You've
unnatural.
had problems in the neighborhood
It looked
before?
like it was
Yeah, my dog was
uncomfortable
killed here
in
just
its own
recently.
feet.
I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, it was standing out there. I'm out here looking through the window now, and I don't see anything.
She
I don't want to go
believed
outside.
that what she was looking at
Jesus
was
Christ,
pure
you better...
evil.
Sure. Zia,
Hello?
get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9" up.
Do you
Many
see
of the
him now,
cases of
sir?
about
Yes, I'm looking
100
right
people,
at him.
at least, who claim that they've been abducted
hang
by
on.
aliens.
He's
One
right.
of Dr.
Is
Matt's
he in your
patients,
yard,
Linda,
sir?
Yeah,
who
he's
says
gone.
she
He's
has
big.
been
Faded out.
abducted since childhood.
Reality. I was just
what I remember
being brought up this tunnel of light, right?
being around my
Up
bed.
this tunnel, I
And I
just
ran between them
noticed
and ran
parts
out
of my
of the
life
room
that
to
wouldn't
my
even
mother
occur to me to
to
remember.
hide
Then I
from
knew that I
And
wasn't
I never
giving
told
up,
anybody
that I
about
was
that, and I just buried it in the back
And so
of my
then I
mind.
came to the end of this
My brother,
tunnel
he never
and noticed there
spoke
was
about
a
it.
man that first
I
searched me
noticed
at first as
a
a place
mist or a fog
and I
kind
also
of
saw
moving.
relatives that had
The
died
action, the
that
motion
year.
caught my eye.
Then
It
the
actually
wizard,
started
without
taking
moving his
shape,
mouth,
taking
spoke to me and
form.
said,
The
"Struggle,
idea
you're
of the
too
Grim
young to
Reaper
die."
went through my head, cloaked figure. And as I was watching, it kept becoming more and more and more distinct to me that this was actually something with some type of presence. Like it knew I was there. And as I was watching it, it turned and looked directly at me. I felt like whatever this was angry at me. I wasn't welcome. It wanted me out. I had been face to face with a ghost or a demon, a spirit. I'm not really sure what. But this feeling of terror actually was going through me. And I really felt more that it
Hey
was
everyone, and welcome to
demonic.
Real
It was something
Supernatural
very
Encounters. For my guest today, I have Chris. He was mentioned in the last episode I did with Adam about his whole experience and encounter, and Chris will be telling his side of the story for Adam. He will also tell one experience, two experiences that he had when he was younger of supernatural. So before we get started, Chris, could you give a brief bio about yourself?
Yeah, I'm 26 years old. I live in Chicagoland area in Illinois. I've known Adam since I was around 15 years old. We went through high school together. Now we own a business, which is New Age Supercenter, in which it's a mobile discount app that you can use at all major retailers. And I'm here to give some interesting advice, hopefully, and storylines for people. So.
Okay. All right, Chris. Well, when you're ready, you can either start with when you were younger and experiences you had first, or you can start with the things that happened during Adam's experiences that you got to experience as well first.
Yeah, so I as a young kid had experienced around at 4 years old what commonly is described as like a silhouette or a dark figure inside of my room. I would wake up commonly at night to this dark figure or silhouette, and the room would be ice cold. And I at the time lived where in my room was set up to where my bed would be against the wall, and I would sleep, and I remember pulling myself so close to the wall at night because I didn't want to turn around and see that figure, and I only knew it would be there because it would be almost like a sensation, or obviously the coldness in the room would be a telltale sign that this would be coming on, and then it would eventually I would fall back asleep, or it would go away. But it never had, would come out of the hallway actually to where it wouldn't be a silhouette, except one night in which I woke up, and I used to sleep with a toy Hercules sword, like a little plastic sword, and cowboy guns, because I was scared of this. And my parents took it as like I was having maybe night terrors or bad dreams, so they would spray like bubble gum, monster spray, in my room. And I remember that specifically too. And that night I woke up and I ended up seeing what was a mist like of a boy that was next to my bed, and it was facing the doorway, in which there was an old man that was, again, like, the mist figure, very dark and, gray type color. And then there was a Rottweiler that was on it had a leash around it, but the chain was broken. It was a chain link chain, in which I do still feel bad to this day, but just I ended up taking the sword and I stabbed, through the boy, missed, and then I threw the toy gun at the man, and I ended up running into my parents' room, and because it, disappeared at that time. That was probably the most intense experience in my life up until meeting Cloma, in which is a medium. Cloma called out this experience without even me having told her any type of history or story about it. She truthfully had only met me once, and it was brief in a mechanic shop. And she does speak English, but it's very broken. So for her to call out my age, it was the figure, not necessarily the boy, but the figure, and exactly how it would come and the room would feel. And for no reason, she brought this up. It wasn't on my mind even. It kind of triggered a memory kind of deal. And so that was where then she would tell me things would happen. And it would be subtle things like, I was having issues in a relationship, and she would tell me like, oh, this girl's bad for you. The mother of my child's bad for you. You're going to meet the right one, this and that. And now I'm in a new relationship. And it was somebody that I've known since I was, a young kid. And I would have never expected to date them. We kind of just hung out for our daughters to hang out. And it was very odd. I never would bring my daughter typically around another female. And I did with her because I'd known her, but I knew she was a good mother and, person, because girls out there these days, something else. But, regardless, that was my Cloma experience and my personal experience with supernatural.
Okay. I guess when you're ready, go ahead and tell what happened or what experiences happened when Adam was first getting a hold of you.
So yeah, Adam, was super excited. He was going up to Upper Peninsula, which he typically had done. He had done about 2 months prior, and he kind of goes out and he adventures. He doesn't have really a place to go or a set location. This time he went up to some park up in, I don't even know what town exactly in the Upper Peninsula, but it was a forest preserve park. And what he had called me at like 6:30 in the morning, which again is odd for Adam. He typically at that point in his life, slept in till about 10:30, 11. And so for him to call me that early on a Saturday, I believe it was, kind of weird. So I answered, right? And as having a daughter, I am up, and my girlfriend, was there with me. So he just called me, and I need to call the Fox News, CNN, all this intent. And I'm like, are you okay? Like at first I was, what's wrong with you, man? And then he sends me these videos, and I watched them, and they they didn't really show exactly what he was talking about, but they did show odd things. Like it looks like in the one video there's things moving in the background, like almost like figures, but I can't, again, you'd have to watch it yourself. And then the oddest one is the one where he takes off when he heard something running, in which at one point you can kind of see whatever that figure was, and or it was just you'd have to watch it yourself. But that was when I started to really think things were wrong. And at that point I watched this video, right, and I'm on my Facebook, and we were talking through Messenger, and that freezes. So then I went into my message, to message him on my phone, and he couldn't message me. It just kept saying message fail. In which then, I kind of just put my phone down and was like, all right, maybe, I kind of just let it be. And then I get a call, and again, it's like 7:30 now at this point, and it's from some random number, in which I believe the name was James. And I can't think of the last name off the top of my head. So it calls me. I don't answer because I do not know the number. And I even showed, my girlfriend, because I'm like, look, another phone call. It's like, what the hell, who is this? I ended up looking back at my phone probably 10 minutes after that, because I got a text message, phone's vibrating, and it's from Adam. And he's saying, why aren't you answering? Are you okay? And I'm like, what do you mean? And I looked at my phone, and that missed call was from Adam. So then when he gets back here, I guess he came back overnight, and he was telling me about all these experiences with the hotel and seeing all these figures like, you know, a man in the lake, and, you know, just the whole town feeling off. In which I understand what that feels like. You know, I've traveled a little bit around, and those, you know, come and go towns always give me that small, you know, weird vibe, you know, or not small, but that weird, I don't know how to explain it. And maybe it's a personal thing, but so I could understand his end. But then he got back, and he didn't tell anybody he was back for a couple of days, and he stayed at the house, in which he came back after being there for about 3 days straight, not telling anyone. And he was in a serious state, in the sense like he looked like he was almost like somebody had beat him up, in a sense. Like he was, you know, he had bags under his eyes. You know, he was distraught, in the sense he was scared. He didn't know what to do. The only reason why we knew at that point is because I had talked to our mechanic, and Augustine had then, you know, introduced me to Cloma. I, at the time, was seeking to talk to a medium just because I wanted the experience, see if it was real or whatnot. So oddly, she was. And, you know, she's from Mexico, and she's an immigrant. And I ended up getting a reading from her. She first looked at my hands, and then she, you know, just kind of just locked eyes. And she just started telling me about, you know, and like I said, in broken English, you know, the time when I was young, that I just described at the beginning. And that blew my mind, you know, when somebody triggers a memory, because at the time I wasn't thinking of this. You know, I do remember it, and now telling you, I can regurgitate it to you like I was there again. But at the end of the day, like that thought, sitting in an office in the middle of the day, I'm thinking she's going to tell me about my future, you know, something great. And this was not that at all. It was something that happened in the past. And then to tell me not to play with a Ouija board. She's like, and I am a curious person. Maybe it's the Virgo in me. Maybe it's the, I need to figure out and analyze everything and get the answers. But that's how I ended up finding what's called the Wendigo, which is the only thing that I can, it's an American, Native American folk, you know, tale or lore. It's definitely ancient, but it's been around, and apparently it's in these forests. I'm not sure if that's what's happening, if it's, you know, there's, I don't know if you ever heard of missing 411, but that's another thing where there's all these missing people in these national parks, and it's definitely interesting because it's not kept. So you know, I would definitely like to find some type of answers. And also, if anybody needed any help, you know, Cloma in this area, you know, I would definitely recommend, if, you know, they're looking for somebody to help, you know, cleanse a home, or, you know, if they are feeling some type of way because of an event or something that's in their home, she can help, you know, and I wouldn't recommend anybody else.
Okay. Okay. When I was talking to Adam, he said that I guess you were experiencing weird things too during this time. What were those things happening?
Yeah, so like my phone, and phones can malfunction, you know, but with it freezing the way it did, I couldn't even like get off of the Facebook app after I flipped back and tried to use Messenger, and it was saying that my message was unreceived. I reset my phone, same thing was happening. And when I did reset my phone, I went back into the Facebook Messenger to try to look at whatever video he's saying he sent me. It froze my phone to where I couldn't, it was just all pixelated. It was very odd. I mean, I do have a new phone. It's an Android, you know, it's newer, not more than a year old. And so that was odd to me, because at the time he had an Android, so it was compatible devices. It wasn't anything like Apple flip over, you know, kind of deal. On top of the fact of the phone call that I got, that's the oddest thing to me. I've never gotten a phone call where I honestly, you know, it's 7:30 in the morning. I'm looking at my phone, it's see a name. If it was Adam, considering the situation I just had answered before, I'm going to answer again, you know, make sure my guy's all right, you know. So I end up looking at and seeing another random number calling me, and I'm like, who the hell is James? And that name wasn't even in my call log. That was another thing. It was like the same exact time that I had gotten a, you know, call, and it was Adam. This, you know, random James call, and it's a Michigan number, you know. So I looked up, you know, and all of this, because it, you know, look, you know, it pops up the location on caller ID, and it pops up the name and number. So when I looked it up after the fact, when I looked back at my phone about 10 minutes later, you know, because Adam texts me, my phone buzzes, you know, because I didn't answer the call that was from the James, and I look back at my call log because he's saying, did you call me? I call him. He's like, I've been calling you like 15 times. I only got one missed call, and the one missed call was not from an Adam. So when I look back at my call log and it says Adam Al-Saraki, that tripped me out. And the only thing that happened when I searched the name, in which I'll try to get it, was an obituary that popped up, and which was very odd. You know, I just kind of disregarded that, and really, in all reality, it didn't set in until Cloma went to his house and hearing what they said, you know, and I had gone to his house once before, or twice before, the house that he's living in currently, and it's I did get a weird vibe from the house, but you know, I didn't really pay any attention to it. I just kind of let it be. You know, I wasn't there for a long period, wasn't staying overnight kind of deal. But I know that with Cloma going there and doing whatever she did, both of them gave the same exact description, and were really hyped up after I seen them. Like they couldn't believe what they had just heard, kind of deal. It was, and Augustine is one of the most honest people and hardest workers that I know. So for him to come back and say this just justified every crazy ass thing I just heard Adam tell me. And so now it's all like, wait, what? Like, you know, how, and I always knew Cloma had power in that sense, or she can, you know, either pick up on something or whatever, but I never knew it was like this. So I'm still trying to put my mind and wrap my whole mind, because I feel like this whole world's kind of different than what we're told, you know, so.
Wow. Okay. I have a couple of questions for you. I'll start with asking, when you were younger, what do you think happened when you stabbed the mist and that Rottweiler with the hanging chain and you ran off? What do you think happened to it?
I think that, you know, that whatever, however you would describe, if there was an event that stained that room, an energy of some sort, that would be what my taking as a grown adult was. That unfortunately apartments, people come and go in them, and we, you know, don't know exactly what kind of, just like wearing an old hand-me-down from, you know, Goodwill. It is great, but you don't know what happened to that person wearing that clothing. And in that case, you know, it can carry vibes, or, you know, some people believe in like voodoo type stuff. And not saying that that was the reason it was there, but you know, if I was to say why was it occurring, I think that that was just an energy that was stuck in that house, and I don't know why it is that way, but maybe it's if you create such negative energy in a room or vibration that will stain it, almost like you can't get certain colors out once they're in white, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Did this mist have any like facial features or anything?
Yeah, so when it was in the mist form, like when it was just a silhouette, no. It was just, it looked almost just like if you know, not if you're looking out, because your eyes are normal when it's dark, everything's dark, so you can kind of see, not great, but it's not like it's pitch black in your room. I have windows, so you kind of can see a little bit, but when this figure was in the doorway, you could not see through it. It wasn't like the mist, where when it was in a figure of a man, what I would say is maybe it's feet, from what I can remember, like the bottom where my feet would be if we were standing upright, that was not there. Okay, so there was no feet. It was more or less like the torso and up, and the arms for the man, that I can remember. The dog had all, you know, all the features of what a Rottweiler would look like, and it, you know, the eyes were red, and both the dog and the man. And what I mean by that is, if I was to color in all the white in my eyes black, and then just have all, instead of, you know, where a pupil is black, all the color just red. There's no pupil. It was really odd, but it stuck in my mind. I mean, that was definitely something that, you know, is unexplainable, but that's, you know, what I can remember. So, and with the boy, again, it was more or less the torso, upper torso, but I couldn't really see because of my bed, you know, so if I, you know, I didn't really, and plus I wasn't paying as much attention to the boy as I was once I seen that man and the dog, you know, that kind of, you know, I was just wanting it all to end, you know. But
Now, knowing that they had like red eyes and stuff, what do you think? What do you think those entities were?
I mean, I think the boy was nothing negative. So after why I say I feel bad is that boy did not have those red eyes. It had, it was like if you were looking at me, but it was a see-through image of me, almost like a mist. And that's the odd thing is there was no color in the boy at whatsoever. There was none. It was just an image of, you know, this grayish, you know, almost like a cloudish. I don't even know how to explain it, but that's the best I can do. And with the man, I think it could have been a demon. The dog, I don't understand at all. And why I say a demon, what I mean by that is either that or, like I said, some type of vibration or entity that's able in a different dimension. Like when we're in between sleep, you know, maybe we can see into different, you know, our brain. I don't know how to explain how I was able to even experience this, to be honest. But, you know, if I was to say what I think it is, you know, I'm not sure. I mean, we can both, you know, guess, I guess, you know, on that.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Do you still keep in contact with Cloma?
Yes. I try to, you know, if I can help her out in any way, if I can assist her with anything, honestly, if she texts me, or I'll send her TikToks sometimes, you know, like nice, you know, your meaningful message, you know, of the day kind of deal, because honestly, she deserves it. And she did this for me. She didn't charge me anything to do my reading, and she didn't ask, and it's only, you know, obviously, but this, I can't tell you how much it was, how much change occurred. So Adam comes back, he's, like I said, distraught. She goes to his house twice. After the second time, yes, he was still concerned about this continuing. Yes, he was, you know, talking about it and saying, oh, maybe Paloma can help and she can do us, you know, some prayer or something for us, or whatever, you know, she does, because, you know, in what, you know, at home, you know, in her, and however she does it, you know, and he didn't have any more experiences. Like, it's been done. And it's interesting because the amount for that week, and it wasn't like it was a 2-day thing. It wasn't like it was a one location thing. This, whatever thing that was up in Michigan somehow followed Adam back, and it, like, full blown either made whatever was in his house prior, because I said I felt that negative vibe in his house prior, or it was its own beast in itself. And how it was able to do that, I don't know. I feel mostly, I guess, bad for the kids that were, you know, because they weren't in the house. They had, you know, Cloma will not do any of that type of practice inside a house while the children are present, especially young children. She would like them to go outside and play, because as Adam and Augustine were in the house, and I'm sure you've gotten in the story, the noises and the things and the cat, I felt bad for that cat, but, you know, that cat is the reason why the kids, because they are more susceptible to this type of negative, you know, entity than, you know, a non-believer would be, and or an adult, for whatever reason, as the animal was, you know. So you know, she made them go out, but yeah.
Wow. Okay. How crazy is it that you guys met Cloma at the right time in the right place? Because if she didn't show up, what do you think would have happened to Adam?
Oh man. I mean, I would hope to not say he would be dead. I mean, but he had called the cops that night. I mean, for Adam to call the police and say, and the cops come into this house, and I mean, there's, you know, obviously going to be some type of police report on file for this, due to the fact that they did go in and they did pull their firearms and go by the bathroom and did tell someone to exit the bathroom. Now, him, you know, he's not the type to call the police for any unknown, like, you know what I mean? Like, unless it was a real legitimate reason, like, he wouldn't just call the police just because he's scared. You know what I mean? And they weren't even able to help. And that's, to be honest with you, calling the police in that situation would be more terrifying than, I believe, that, because what if they think you're crazy, right? And then they take the kids or something like that, in which he wasn't even like trying to, it was legitimately like that serious. So I think finding Paloma was a godsend, and source energy, you know, it was meant to happen. But I do think that if we did not have the personality or make the acts of random kindness or words, or, you know, things that are positive, the positive vibrations that I guess you put out into the world came back to us at that point. and why I say us is because that would have been detrimental to our business. You know, it would have been, who knows? I mean, he wouldn't have been able to continue living. He would have went probably insane if I mean, mentally,
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, if not, unfortunately, something worse.
Wow. That's what I was thinking, because when he was telling his story, he was so frightened to have experienced all those things. And, you know, he was saying that he was not getting sleep, you know, maybe 2 hours in a night, you know, dealing with this. He just felt so exhausted and drained. And, you know, luckily Cloma, you know, she came and helped get rid of it after, you know, a couple of times coming back and redoing it, and it was fine.
Yeah, she did it twice. Yeah, all together. And I believe that was just the first time was the most intense, from what I remember their story in the sense of the whole event. I didn't go. Well, I was with them that day, but I just didn't feel like it was a place for me to be. Not that I mean, yeah, I am afraid of that kind of shit in no sense, but I mean, it's, you know, just for my friend, you know, he had Augustine, and I didn't want to have everybody at his house with this kind of serious, you know, event going on, just to give him respect. But yeah, we were very lucky, and she's a blessing, you know, in disguise for sure. It's why you never know who's around you. You know, you might feel it, but probably pay attention to those intuitions, because they're probably right, you know.
I agree. I fully agree on that. You mentioned something about him telling you of a man in a lake. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so he had said that when they were sitting out, him and his you know, significant other, they were looking, and they're in the park in the forest preserve, and in the lake, he said he's seen what was a like bald-headed man that was sitting there like floating, like, but swimming in just treading water for the whole time, like. And then if somewhere where his hotel was, okay, you could still see, you know, the same body of water, you know, at some point, and from whatever view, okay, and that same man was in the water. So these things that, you know, in the description of them, Adam was very particular on. So as a third party telling it, it was like another entity, like, you know how I described the mist, it would have been like that, but it would have been more of what he was describing as like it looked like a real solid person. But it didn't make any sense on how they could be sitting there in the cold. Like, it wasn't like it was summer yet, you know. It was still, you know, negative. It was still like in its 30s, I believe, at that time, you know, 40 degrees tops. It wasn't warm enough to be in the water, you know.
So this person or entity was sitting in the water, or it was laying on its
Not sitting like on top of it. Like, they would be, from what I remember him saying, like, it was almost like treading water the whole time. Like, just the head was in, like, you could clearly see the head above water. You know what I mean? But either that, and, you know, as far as my recollection of his exact storyline was from it, is that it was just sitting there, and at some point, like, it was staring at them, like, you know. And that was odd, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I wouldn't probably approach some guy in a lake either, you know, at that point. But the fact that I think he's seen it later, and then all these other events were happening, because this was like all in a series of events. So that was like when he first got there, and then eventually it came into where, you know, these things were, you know, or what he thought our thing was chasing towards his car, trying to open his car door. You know, and he at least got somewhat of a video shot of that, in which you kind of, like I said, it's a very quick 10-second video, but you can kind of see a little bit, you know, something in it.
And so you still have pictures and video evidence of what he captured and sent to you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely like to get those from you whenever you want to send them, and I can add them to your guys' video so that people can kind of get a look at what you did see. And you said that you even screenshot and circled like part of a picture or of the video that people can see what he was talking about.
Yeah, I'll send all that to you, no problem.
Okay. What state is Paloma located in, if someone needs her help or wants to contact you?
Joliet, Illinois. So you know, the south suburbs of Illinois, or of Chicago, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So she's Chicagoland area. definitely anybody in that Cook County, Will County, DuPage, anywhere abroad. I'm sure if you know, it was a really serious matter, and you know, she'll take the call or help anybody. So it's not necessarily just generalized this area, but obviously with expenses, you know, she would have to be able to get to the place, you know, and
Okay.
be able to perform the act, you know, and do what she needs to do, and get the material she needs for whatever she performs, in the sense for her, I don't want to call it like seance, but you know, kind of deal, you know. So that's something that she can definitely help anybody in this, you know, surrounding area with.
Okay. All right. Well, Chris, you've answered all my questions. I really do appreciate you for coming on and telling your side of the story. Before we end this episode, would you like to give any closing comments or advice to anybody that might face any experiences similar to your guys's?
Well, Anthony, I appreciate you having me on and, you know, listening and having this platform. I would say just, you know, keep an open mind and, you know, if anybody's experiencing these types of things in this area, be careful on who you reach out for, you know, to help you. But if there is somebody I would recommend, it would be Cloma. If you're looking for any type of help with that. If you're not seeking help, just try to find your inner guidance, inner peace, you know, your own spiritual self, whether that's, like I said, in a Christ consciousness form, you know, in a previous conversation to you, or if it's in your own belief. But as long as it's putting out positive vibrations, you know, you should return that, you know, because of it, you should see that return. So the only advice, you know.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Chris. Like I said again, I appreciate you for coming on, and I thank you guys all for watching. It's been another episode of Real Supernatural Encounters, and we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, take care.
See you.